There we go. Okay, there we go. Because last time I forgot to do that. And it's like, oh, sometimes we like to review since it was such a long time since we last met, you know. So the plan tonight is to go through these songs. Did everybody try to go through the worksheet and do that on each song?
Yes.
Have you all done that? Okay. So this is, we don't want to skip by this or run through it quickly because there are points during this whole session that we really need to emphasize. And so we may get through all 6 songs tonight and we may not. And that's okay too. Depends on how the discussion goes. And so I just want to tell you that ahead of time. So that we're prepared for that. And did you end up using the revised worksheet that Judy sent out? Or did you just use the one that's on here? I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just
I found by the end of them, I was actually preferring to just make notes in a notebook because I kind of wanted a bit more space than what was on that form. So I kind of read through both forms and then I would just make notes as I went. And a lot of it was just on the sheet music as well. So I think probably the revised one didn't have probably enough detail. The unrevised one had a lot more detail on what you were looking for. So I think both in combination were good, but I ended up just making note by the end.
Oh, very good. What about the rest of you? What did you guys do?
I mostly used the original one just because it had more space to write things. I kept the revised one right by my side and looked to see if there were more things I needed to do. And I wrote all over the original one and I wrote all over my sheet music.
Very good.
It was intended that you would use this one, but when we went through it, we found always we're flipping back and forth across the pages.
Yeah.
We're like, no, could we just look at and then go down them this way? But of course, also referring to the original. I didn't mean you didn't want to refer to it. I guess it was just to kind of keep us, once we start doing this on line and that, because we just kept, didn't we talk about that over here? Didn't we talk about that? Because
there was some overlap and repeat.
There's overlapping. So this way I just tried to simplify it for that part. But yeah, it's very important to, I mean, the other one is very good. So yeah.
Yeah, very good. All right. Oh, good grief. I forgot to turn my face on. Nobody said anything. Where's my
We all noticed that.
As long as you didn't forget to put your face on. Yeah.
There we go. Now we're official.
Okay.
Okay, so the plan tonight is to go through as many of these songs as we can. And each group works at a different speed. The group we had before, spent like a whole evening on one song. And we don't need to do that, but we want to make sure we go through the basics because the things we're going to do tonight in the exercise are going to help you when it's time for you to arrange your own song. It'll be things to look for and things to watch out and check on and stuff. So that's the whole idea of doing this. So we're just gonna go like right down the page. We're gonna start with side by side. So let me ask you this. Now it said you were supposed to pick one of the songs and put in all the chord symbols. Did each of you do that?
Yeah, but I felt I had to do it for all the songs because otherwise I can't answer the other questions.
Okay.
Did that as well.
And I'm not that good at just visually it takes me a while to work out all the chords.
Yeah.
Me too.
So I need the experience of actually doing it over and over.
Okay, that's great. Yay. All right. So so who did the chords on side by side? Did any of you? All of you? Oh, so did you all do that? Do like almost all the songs? All the chords? Okay. Great.
Wonderful.
Actually, I only did the chorus when I look at it. I didn't do the verse.
Sure, that's fine. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay. So in going through the worksheet, we want to, when you are choosing a song to arrange, and this whole program, this whole ACP program is set up talking about songs for competition. Okay. And I know there are modern arrangements and all that stuff, but this whole training thing is all about trying to do songs for competition. So we're going to be talking a lot of like straight barbershop. And if you've read through the JC judging category description booklet, you know, especially like the music category tells all about what they're looking for in the arrangements. They have to have certain components, right? So like when we choose a song for competition, it has to have a chorus, right? And most songs have a tag. Some songs have an intro, some songs do not. Sometimes some songs use the verse for the intro, which it can be appropriate, and some songs do not. And so there are certain forms that we're looking for, especially for the form of a song that you would use at competition. And have any of you read through the music category description in the judging book? Because that has all kinds of information that will help you as an arranger. And so the songs that we have here follow those basic criteria. So if we're looking at side by side, I thought what I would do is, well, we'll stay like this. And if we have any questions, I can share my screen and we can all look at the music, or perhaps you have the sheet music right there. But so tell me the form of this song. So if let's start by looking at the chorus part of the song. Okay. In the JCDB, it says something about the song form that's, you know, AABA or ABAC. And so I want to make sure that everybody understands how to figure that out. And you guys are pretty quick studies, so you may already know how to do this, you know. So when you're looking at the form of a song, or like the form of the chorus of the song, there are there are phrases that repeat. And so I was an elementary music teacher, so I always love to use Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Very simple, okay? So the first part of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, even if you're not doing the words, is da 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 da. Okay? That's the first part of the song. And so we would use the first letter of the alphabet, A. Okay? So that part of the song is called part A. And then we would listen to the second part of the song. And what we have to decide is, does it sound musically the same, or is it like a total different musical idea? So part A was da 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 da. So the next part of the song goes like this. Da 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 da. Did that sound the same as part A, or did it sound different? So it sounded different. So we'll use a different letter of the alphabet. And so that would be part B. And then the next part of the song goes da 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 da. Have we heard that before? And yes, and when we heard that before, was that part A or was that part B?
A.
That was part A. So the form for Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star is ABA. Do you see how that works? Because the first form and the first part of the song, the last part of the song are the same. Now, this is something probably you already know, but that's a really easy example to think about form. So when we look at the chorus of the song side by side, what is the form of the chorus? What did you come up with?
I put AABA.
Ah, okay. Anybody? Good, yes.
I saw that too.
Oh, good deal. All right. So that's exactly what the form is for the chorus of the song, AABA. Did you come up with that, Emily? I just want to make sure everybody understands how to do this part.
Yes, although I put AABAB, I think it was 40 bar chorus.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So when we're talking about the form of the chorus, we're talking about the first time through the chorus. So if you did ABAB, you know, they use the second half of the chorus later on in the song and stuff. But yeah, so that's what we're talking about. So I think it sounds like everybody understands how to figure out the form of and we're talking about the form of the melody is what we're talking about when we're talking about the form, right? So are there any?
So can I just, I understand why Emily put the B too, and I just called it a bridge and made it B and pretended it was a bridge. Even though it really was B from the chorus, because I thought I had to have a 32 bar chorus. So I made the next B a bridge.
Well, yeah, you could do it that way. Sure. Yeah. So that,
go ahead. I actually did the AABA and then I put BA. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what it does. The tag is
Yeah.
A, the
Right.
bridge is B, and then it goes to the tag, which is an A.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay, good.
When you
So-
say bridge, Liz, when you say bridge, where are you meaning at 49? Is that what-
I'm meaning the 8 bars after the 32 bar chorus. So Emily said she made it a 40 bar chorus. So I made it 32 and called the last 8 bars a bridge. So
But what is the major numbers I'm asking you?
uh,
I just want to make sure.
can bring that up, yeah.
chorus.
It's actually a clue because there's a double bar line after 48. So the
Yeah.
double bar line is a little bit of a, I think that's part of
Yeah.
the overall form. So if we get into the verse chorus, I would call that just chorus, but only 8 measures instead of 32.
I wondered is that what we call a reprise? I've seen that
You know
word.
what?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess.
If
Yes,
you look
it
at
is.
49 there, when it goes side by side, we've all been cooking along, and then it takes it, it doesn't tell you, but with the double bar, it indicates that it's probably going to do something a little different, like a tempo change or something. I think the arranger, this is a note you could make, the arranger might want to make something in there and say expressively or something like that. That I think this is like an interlude, you could even call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
8-bar interlude that connects you to the next chorus after it has it, because you can almost see through all kinds of weather. What you see, it's taken you out of tempo, and then it doesn't matter at all. Then they should probably have had an off tempo there
Yeah.
at 57.
At
And then
49, they could put an ad lib, you know?
Yes,
Yeah.
ad lib is fine. Yes,
Mhm.
I was saying something. I was trying to be very Italian with interpretivo or expressivo or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think that's what is maybe a little confusing. I think the chorus ends there, and then that isn't. I wouldn't call it a bridge. I guess I would call it an interlude, because
Yeah.
it kind of because it's in any way you have to separate it like it did with the double bars. But Jean and I were talking earlier today about. Did we mention Sharon Bab talking about the old right and the new right? The old right might have been just to put the double bars in or whatever. The new right is that we guide them a little more. We would put like ad
Label,
lib or
Yeah.
something
La-
like that. And then we would also tell them tempo at that double bar. And that would have told them also that they would have, given some variety to it in the way it's being sung. So we need to tell our people when their arrangers need to give more directions. That's the new right. Yeah. Okay.
So we'll be talking about the old right and the new right a lot, because this was published a long time ago, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But as we become smarter arrangers, we try to give the performers as much guidelines as possible, and yet still give them the freedom to do what they want. And so so when I've heard side by side being sung, just like Judy said, when we get to measure 49, it is kind of ballad style or ad lib style or freestyle, but it's not marked that way. So some person, they can interpret it however they want. And lots of times interlude and bridge are words that are interchangeable that kind of mean the same thing. Yeah. So anyway, what key is this song? Did this song start in?
A flat, I guess.
A
Yeah.
flat.
Started in A flat. Did it have a key change?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
It had a key change right here at measure 57. So the key change went up a half step to the key of A, right?
Yep.
Yeah, very good. So how about the melody of this song? What's the range of the melody for the lead? For the lead line.
be
E
natural
to B flat.
Yes. So a little, one octave, a little more than an octave, right? Just about. And well, yeah. Because, and so when the melody, would you say this melody jumps around, or is it kind of stepwise, or a little bit of both? What would you say?
Pretty stepwise.
Yes, pretty much stepwise. Good job.
A few leaps, but not difficult.
Right.
And when you say stepwise, you mean just going up and down the scale. Is that what you mean by stepwise?
Yeah, the intervals are a
Or
second or
interval, okay,
or
intervals,
a
okay,
second or a third apart
okay,
instead of jumping a fifth or a sixth or a seventh, you know. They
okay.
do have some jumps in there. Yeah. Okay.
Probably just that transition to through all kinds of weather. That's that sixth. That's the only tricky thing.
Yes, yes.
I
So,
saw a couple of six, but I noted that it's fairly melodic and quite doable, and a fair amount of chromatics.
yes, good
Mhm.
job.
Mm.
So if you were looking at this song and trying to choose a song for your chorus or your quartet, you know, there are simple arrangements, there are medium arrangements, there are difficult arrangements. How would you categorize this one?
Depends how good your group is at chromatic tuning.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it simple.
And how low your basses can sing. But
Oh,
I'd say fairly easy. Like
yeah.
overall, I'd say it's on the easy level.
Yeah, I would think,
Yeah.
you know, this would be an appropriate arrangement for like a C level group.
Yeah.
You know, and so because it has a typical key change of going up a half step, and yes, and even every song has its traps or its difficult parts, and one of the tricky things here are the chromatics, but for the most part, because the melody is stepwise and it doesn't have a lot of unusual leaps in it, it would be you know, pretty singable. And
a lot of repeated sections. Like when I did the chords, I was like, I don't need to write that in. It's an exact repeat.
Yes.
So if they could nail the tuning or whatever on those tricky bits, it would then apply to 4 or 5 places.
Absolutely, yes. And so those are all key components of an arrangement for a C level group. Okay, key components for that. Yeah. Anything else you want to say about the melody? You kind of hit it right on. Okay, so if we look at the harmony, the chords that were used, when we're trying to arrange a song for competition, we want to choose a song that has lots of the big 3 chords. Everybody familiar with the big 3 chords? That would be the major triad, the dominant 7th chord, and the dominant 9th chord. Because all the notes in those chords are in the overtone series. And when we sing those notes, it helps to give us the goosebumps and ring the chords and stuff. Everybody's singing in tune and the same vowel sound and all that stuff. So the songs that have more of those kind of chords than any other kind of chords, that's going to score better in the music category. That's going to make your sound score better because you can ring a lot of those chords, you know. And so that's something to look for when you're trying to find a strong barbershop. You know, on the score sheet, it says, you know, strong barbershop, or sometimes it says lots of secondary chords and stuff. Have you seen that little spot on the music score sheet? And the secondary chords would be, well, first of all, the song would be very boring if it only had the 3 major chords, you know, the 3 biggie chords. It needs other chords in there. But if you have more secondary chords, like the major 6th chord or major 9s, or then it's not as easy to ring those chords, and so that could affect your sound score overall. And so those are things that you're looking for when you're analyzing the chords. You know, you put in all the chord symbols. Did you find a lot of the chords were triads and dominant 7s and dominant 9s? And even though that was like the majority of the chords in the song, that there were still other spots in there. You know, there were some minor 6 chords, minor 7 chords, right? Major 9th chords, a couple augmented, right? What about tension chords? What is a tension chord? How would you describe that?
It's a chord that longs to change to something else to end the story.
That's a really good way to think of that. I always think of it as, I want to hear it return home, you know. So like if the end of the song is in the key of A, you want to hear, most likely the last chord is an A chord. Is it? Oh, Shazam, it is. Yes, because you want to return home. It's kind of like if I sing do re mi fa sol la ti, that would be a tension thing because your ear and your body wants to feel it go to what? Do. Yeah, right. Okay. And so I think of that. So tension chords are usually like the next to the last chord, the next to last chord in the whole song in the tag. And there are other tension chord spots in the song. Because if you just ended there, it makes your body go, and then you hear the next chord and you go, yes. Gives you some relief. All right. Does everybody understand about tension chords and what they are?
Can I just ask something about that, which maybe will come up later? This was, I agree with everything you're saying and the balance of all that stuff. I found it too simplistic. The end of all these sections, like A, B, well, not B, but sorry, the end of the A sections, I found them just, they'd land on this whole note of a tonic chord.
Right.
And I was surprised there wasn't more movement. Like as an arranger, I'd want to add in a little bit of an embellishment for forward motion.
Oh, yeah.
I was surprised that it didn't have more of that.
Yeah.
So even though it landed on a nice tonic chord that could ring, it didn't actually have that tension you're talking about it as much as I expected. It sort of has these sort of like little, marker points that I don't feel actually have forward motion.
But give us an example, Abby.
32.
Okay, let's look at 32.
Very early on, where you've just heard the first A,
exactly,
A, and just side by side.
Yeah.
Next bit, where you expect it to go. I understand it's early, so you don't want to add embellishments too soon, but I, as a performer, would feel like that didn't have forward motion. So I don't know, and it's the same at 48.
24.
It's like the song could have ended there. Yeah, because a big part of the tension chord is about forward motion to the next bit, but then that in turn goes on, unless you're at the end.
And how would you do it, Abby? What would you suggest?
Side by side, side by through all, like add some little small embellishment. It had a bit more motion, had more forward motion. Like I think it's really weird having a whole note chord in a more upbeat song.
Right.
If I was watching
what makes it, if you're looking for a C level group, does that make it, that's like, would they do that intentionally so that a C level group doesn't get stuck there or something?
Yes, that's exactly right. I was just going to say that. Good job. Yes, good job. Because it's sometimes the C level groups don't have the vocal skills to keep that going, and actually if you would just sing side by, so if I'm looking at measure 23 and 24 and I'm doing side by, is that a tension chord or not?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, because you hear side and you want it to go somewhere. And where's it going to go? It's going to go right back home. Because if you just leave it at side, you want to hear it go, right? So that's a simple kind of a tension chord. And for a C level group, you do want to keep it kind of simple. And especially the first time through the chorus, because lots of times they add stuff at the reprise or the second time around or after the key change or something. But those are very good points, and those are really good observations. Because if you're talking about a C level group, they have singing skills, but they're not really good at their singing skills yet. And maybe all they can do breath-wise is to get to travel along, singing a song side by side. And that's all the breath they have. If they had to do side, la, da, 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 that the phrase might die off or something like that. So those are all kinds of things to consider, when you're arranging your song. So it's kind of done that way on purpose because it's a little bit easier to handle for groups that are not super proficient in their singing skills. Yeah.
Does anybody have any other exactly everything you all just said? Does anybody have any other ideas of how you might change out so that each one of those places is not da 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 and would keep that forward motion that Abby was talking about? What else could you do?
You could change the measure before that and put some little slurs or slides, on those half notes.
Ah.
Okay.
So let me ask, what's the name of this
Wait,
song?
No, I was just gonna say, who would do those little notes? Would you say, Donna?
Oh, you could do
Side
the
by
bass.
everlasting, side by side.
Bass class.
No. The bass could do it, or you could do a tenor baritone duo or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
I was just gonna say, and you could do any of those. Let me just throw out something you might do in that, and keeping that forward motion, keeping it not be a little boring, because it is a little boring. I mean, the rest of the song kind of moves along, but when you get to those things, it kind of dies down. So the first time you do it, because it's sort of like a hook, side by side, right?
Bingo,
The next
yeah.
time you do it, you go sharing our load side by side, and you put a quarter rest in there, side by side or something. And the next time, maybe you do it singing a song, side by side. I always think the baritone is a great place to go with something like that.
Mhm.
But you can find or maybe it's a tenor baritone side by side. It would not be that difficult for any chorus to do it, but it would
Right.
be more interesting for the singers as well as the listeners. And all you have to do is put in some kind of a rhythmic thing so people get a breath so they don't die on the vine holding out that whole note.
Yeah.
But other people are doing something with it. It gives a more interest, and you're right, Abby, it gives more forward motion, which is why we want to say once again, Ruth is terrific, and this is a fine arrangement, and that is the old right, and we're going for the new right,
Yeah.
which is to kind of maybe pick it up a bit and make it a little more interesting. Okay,
Right.
so yeah, good observation.
So one of the simplistic things about this arrangement is the name of the song is Side by Side. And so side by side is like the hook of the song, and so people in the audience are expecting to hear side by side again, so I think that might have been her thinking when she was arranging something like this, to keep it simple like that. And so what we want to be careful with is you don't have to put an embellishment at the end of every musical phrase, and over embellish it. But just the simple things that Judy said to add to it, those are excellent, simple ideas to give it some variety. Yeah. Good job.
If you did have a group with the breast support to hold through, say the third time around on 48, and you wanted to put in a swipe there for the momentum, what transition chords could you use? Because this is where I have difficulty with how you'd still maintain circle of fifths movement between A flat and C7.
Oh, yeah. Well, gosh, you'd have to go through a whole little thingy there. Let's see. Sorry, just traveling along. Side. Well, what I would do in a place like that is I would still end up, whatever little diddly you do, I would still end up with that A flat chord.
Okay.
Side by side,
Here's an
we're side
idea
by
for you.
side. That's one idea. Go ahead,
Sorry.
Judy.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, here's an idea for you.
Oh yeah. Do you hear what she did? She put in some extra chords, but her last chord was still that A flat chord.
Yeah.
Do
And it
that
made
again, Judy. Do that again.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's a very nice addition. Yeah.
What chords have you got there? Is that a dim and a...
It goes, I don't know. Like a D flat 7. What's that?
That a diminished?
Minor,
Dim?
a D
Yeah.
flat minor 6,
All right.
Yeah.
and then
Then you end on the A flat chord.
Nice. So you'd still land on home chord rather than using a
Yes.
different transition chord there. Okay.
Yes.
I think you want to go, yeah. Side by side through, or you need to. It goes from here. It kind of needs to go to the A flat into the next chord, I think. I mean,
Yes. And plus it's the hook.
And-
Side
and,
by side. So you want to keep keep it at that A flat at
could
the end.
be. No, that wasn't what I wanted to hear, but I was going, no, it's still gonna go back to A flat. I have to think about it. You were thinking of another chord before that one, weren't you? Were you thinking about another chord before that? Like side by side through all kinds, was that what you were thinking of?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking of whether you could land on the A flat and then use a different chord to transition to the C7.
You could do this too. This is a little maverick, but why not? Side through all kinds.
Yeah.
So yeah, move 2 beats early to the C7.
Yeah. Side through. In other words,
Yep.
you're gonna preview what you're gonna go to. I don't see anything wrong with that, Eugene.
Right. No, that would work just fine.
No, side by side. And that would get you a breath support. You would go in side by side, side. And maybe not, but anyway, it's gonna go side through that, a version of that C7 chord before it. That's another option. You know,
Yeah,
all kinds of
before,
yeah.
options there. So yeah.
Because that could, if you change the voicing then on the C7, it could help the leads transition from the A flat to the C a little more easily.
Yes, very
It
good.
could, yeah, because it rings in their head then. So yeah, those are all good possibilities. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Very good. Yay.
When
There's
you
a
say
name for that,
version
isn't
of
it?
when you
Sorry.
say a version of the C7, you just mean a revoicing? When you-
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, a revoicing of it. So, and which would probably take the place of the bass going up from the A flat to C, and the A flat of the leads and right through. So instead of that awkward A
Yeah,
flat C. So
instead of a jump of a minor 6, a jump of a 5th is much easier.
and so in other words, the baritone and the tenor are still going to sing the notes that are there, and you're just going to flip flop the leads and the bass. But I think that is a good point. Side by side through all, and particularly if you're going into a kind of a not a stomp, but kind of a out of tempo thing. Side by side through all kinds of, right. That would be a
yeah,
good place
that's
to
the
put
spot,
something
yeah.
like that, instead of just
Mhm.
holding it off and then all of a sudden out of the blue we go through all kinds.
Mhm,
You
mhm.
know, go to that C7 variation.
Very good. Yeah.
Good.
Yay. Anything else you want to talk about with the harmony or at all? That makes a lot of sense what you've been saying. You got that's good stuff. Yay.
Yep, you guys are on it.
Yeah. So let's talk about chord voicing. All right. Everyone knows what chord voicing is, right? So there's open voicing and there's closed voicing. Who can tell me what is the definition of a closed voiced chord?
An octave.
Yes, it's pretty much within an octave of each other. Okay. And what is open voicing then?
More than an octave.
Yeah, so it's spread out, so that's a lot more than that. Okay. So in this song, they have a mixture of both closed voicing and open voicing, wouldn't you say? Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And a lot of the open voicing is spread to the 10th, which is typical thing. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to say something about, did anybody notice any voicing? I'm sorry, Jean, did I just step on you, hon?
Oh, no problem.
I just was going to ask, did anybody find anything that they thought might have been possibly voicing that would be problematic for a singer? It happens, I'll give you a clue, it happens like 3 times, the same thing.
Voicing problematic.
The problematic for the singer, the way it is, it makes cool chords on the piano, which is sometimes can hang us up as arrangers because it sounded really good on the piano, but it doesn't transition well sometimes to singers because what's easily played on the piano may not be easy for a particular part. So did you find anything? I'm just looking at it.
I think there's a
What
couple
about
of places
tritones?
where I find the voicing to be very, very spread. like at measure, I think it's measure 16. Well, at least on the one that I have. Just before the chorus, I see some really spread voicing. And I think that that's considered pretty tough for choruses too.
Who is it tough for, do you think?
For
Well,
which part? For which part? Yeah.
when the voicing is spread, probably the ones that are furthest apart from each other, right?
Yeah.
Like the basses maybe on 16.
I don't know, that
Basses.
maybe the 15 into 16 for the bassist might be da, da, that's a little difficult, but a fifth bases eat and drink and live on fifths. and
Yeah,
fourths.
true.
So I don't think that is, but it's always good to examine it. That's why I asked you which part you thought would have difficulty with it. The one I was looking at, there is some odd voicing in the verse, where the bass is on a third, the bass is on a not on a seventh, but the one I was looking at is that I think is problematic. Let's tell you, is in the chorus, and it happens in measure 22 and 30 and 46, and when you have, just so that you're aware of, when you look and you go to arrange things, it sounds cool, but when you look at what the lead sings, da 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 da, and the baritone goes da 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 da, and you have the baritone in the lead on 3 consecutive major seconds, you could be having yourself a real hard time with your chorus, because you want that baritone ba da 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 da, and they're gonna have to be exactly, you see what I mean? See, that's just something to just look out for as you're doing it, because it's gonna be, that chord is all, it's like jumbling everything together. It's almost too close for comfort.
In fact, everyone going in chromatic movement can be quite challenging to stay, because
Right.
everyone is there, right?
Right. But what's hard right here is that a lead part is going up a half a step at a time. And so the baritones want to do that, follow that
Yeah.
pattern and go up a half a step at a time. And yet 2 of the notes are the
Go
same.
da 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 da.
That's how
Yeah.
hard thing to do. Yeah.
And the other problem
Right.
with that is that when sometimes we talk about don't bury the melody, something that's that close, if you have some pretty honking there baritones, they're gonna have to really pull it back, because singing a song all of a sudden became the melody, because they're a whole step apart, and they will singing a song, even though we know what that is. In this song, it probably doesn't matter. We already know what that melody is, right? Most people do. But
Yeah.
in general, you have something that close and the baritones are above, the ones above will generally win, you know? So I'm just bringing it up to be aware of it. It's not wrong. It's just going to be difficult to sing. There to keep in tune. So just to note that when they have other places that like measure 39, it doesn't matter at all. They know how to keep that. It doesn't matter at all. You just tell them pipe down, berries, and they'll do it. And it doesn't matter at all. The melody will come through in a place like that. But there are other places that you look at, especially in an more unfamiliar melody. But you could bury it easily in this whole place, 43, 44, 45, where they're up above them, which happens a lot, not that it doesn't. It's just to be aware of and to know that you're going to balance it out. But I think particularly if you're doing something, like I said, with consecutive major seconds, for 3 times in a row is really difficult for singers to keep that in. And so just kind of try to find another, revoice that possibly so that they don't run together. Just an idea. New right, maybe.
So back to where was that measure that somebody was talking about, the spread chords?
Oh, they were talking about 16, was it?
16. Okay. I couldn't remember where it was. I'm giving you a headache. I'm spinning this so fast. There we go. So in looking at that, you might think, oh my goodness, but this is like a typical barbershop spread voicing of a chord. That the biggest problem with this might be the balance. The same thing where they might think it's the melody goes G, G, G. So it's just a matter of balancing thing. But the seconds, that's a real tricky thing. Yeah. Did anybody find any other spots that were like?
I have a
tricky?
question in
Mhm.
bar 29.
Okay.
The last note, the basses are given a D natural, but in the other passages that are the same, they're on a D flat.
Oh
But
yeah.
that one alone is a D natural, and I don't think people would like that very much. The basses, I mean.
Yeah, that's an odd interval for basses to sing. Baritones would go, no problem. But yeah.
And
that
see,
would-
every other time they sing it, they sing a D flat. So they'd have to remember that one specific time to sing a D natural. I think that could be a problem.
Yes, you are right.
Where is that, Liz?
Right here,
The
measure
Bar
29.
29.
Measure 29?
Yeah.
So why do you suppose the arranger did that?
So if you look in bar 21, it's a D flat.
Yeah.
And the other notes are all exactly the same. The other parts are all exactly the same.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
that is funky, isn't it?
Well, in the first place, what kind of an interval is that for the basses?
Not a good one.
Is it the tritone?
Tritone.
It's a
It's
tritone.
Tritone, yes.
Yeah,
Maria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you really, you know, don't give a tritone to basses or tenors. They're gonna, it's gonna be a difficult, and particularly as you said, Liz, that it's when it's one way the first time and not the way the second time. I guess I never really noticed that before. I was
Yeah.
looking at it after the key change, and they have it.
They do it again later, but they always sing the D flat.
Yeah.
So it's just that once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at bar 61, they still sing the diminished chord, but it transitions better into the E on bar 62.
It does, and that's a good point. If you did it for that reason to go, yeah, like you said, from
Oh
61.
yeah, because that's the big climax kind of a place. Yeah.
So it makes sense to have the variation
Yeah.
there, but the other time
Yeah.
is just for variation in
Yeah.
part A.
Yeah.
I could imagine the director trying and then saying, no, we're going back, and the director would just change the chord back to the
Exactly.
original. You're right, Liz, because not only is it a bad chord, but it's not different enough to be memorable.
Yeah. Yeah.
They would just fight it, and then baritones would offer to sing it, and then they would just say, no, just sing the same.
Yeah. Exactly. The baritones would be going, what's your problem? Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Is it also problematic tuning wise to land the end of a phrase on a diminished chord?
Ooh.
Because to transition into the tag, that makes sense. It's creating tension, but otherwise it's going to be difficult to tune, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it would be simply because it's of the interval of the tritone. It's going to be difficult to tune anyway. Yeah. And I'm wondering what the arranger's thought process was for putting that there. You know, maybe she was thinking, oh, they all sound the same. They all sound the same. Let's throw in something to spice it up. But I think I would choose a different way to spice it up. Yeah. Yeah.
If you look at that just as a general thing, if you look at 29, well, it doesn't matter whichever one you look at. Yeah, you can go to 21, but which have you got there? Yeah, 21. So look, they're open voiced, and then it goes to that chord, and then it goes quickly to a closed voice, and you see there's nothing there to guide anybody anywhere. And in face, we have a cross reference. If you look at, there's the tenor is on a C flat. Do you see that in 21?
Oh,
And
yeah?
then the next measure, the leads are going to sing C. Not, do you see what I mean? That's problematic for singers, number one. There's nothing to tie really that together. It can cause confusion. And then we go from singing a song, and then all of a sudden we pop back up to an open voice, and you have the tenors singing a song side by side. It's I think that's problematic. Singing a song, singing a song, just for the tenors right there. But each one of those things, might want to just look at, just for the fun of it, and see whether it's 29 to 30 to 31 or any of those, just to look and see what would happen if you opened that up and kept it all travel a road, sharing a load side, and kept it up so that nobody had awkward jumps. You know what I mean? That just, in other words, if you revoiced 30, just to see what would happen for your own little enlightenment. What happens if you did it so that we avoided tritones and we avoided what's that called, Jean?
Cross reference, cross voicing.
Cross relationship.
Yeah. Cross relationship. Yes.
I was wondering why it, like 22 and 23, I think the tenor should have the melody at 22. It would just make it, on 22.
Oh, you mean like go singing a song? You mean like that?
Yeah, it would just make it so much smoother for everyone's voices.
Yeah, and that's another possibility. That could be very fun.
Maybe even just one time. Maybe just one time.
Yeah.
Well, either way, you
Very
might keep it,
creative.
but it's just as we look at these things and examine them and say, well, let's be honest about it. This could be sung, it's been sung forever, but there's a lot of difficulty in this, particularly going from everybody's up here, and I like to call it, I don't think there's anything in our thesaurus of terms, you will find. I have my own, but I call them connectors. There's nothing really to connect, for instance, 21 to 22, except that the leads can hear what or the tenors can hear what the leads had, but nobody has something that was kind of well, I guess the baritones are kind of close, but there's no note or something to connect them. And if possible, if we can keep something so we're not all leaping off a building to a new building, I know that's a kind of a big leap. Tertiary, not maybe, but it's, oh, come on, work with me here, girls. Come on.
Okay.
Come
We're saying
on.
keep somebody on the same note.
But yeah, exactly. Keep,
Okay.
if you can, or something like, I think that tenor idea is pretty cool. And we're traveling along.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take it back there. I think that's
Very
beautiful.
clever.
But if you could avoid doing some of those problems that we had here, and I think you're right, I would not have the basses sing another thing, because they're gonna pout. I mean, the basses do not like to pout, but they're gonna why?
Get over it. Get over
And
it.
you know what? You go traveling along, and you go traveling along. That's really hard to tune. And it's like, well, which time is it that I sing that?
Right.
Yeah, and they're all gonna go and have a whining party, and I would join them. Because it's unnecessary when it didn't need to go the other place. And
Right.
the end one you maybe had, but these are interesting conversations to have and see how, as we said, this was the old right. Maybe we can have a renewed right and maybe avoid some of those problems going forward with your own things,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay.
So did we hit all the problem areas? I'm trying to go down my list here of making sure we're covering everything.
There were quite a
Can I
few
have a
double
question too?
fifths.
Yeah,
Weird.
that's what I
tonic
was
chords.
just going to say.
Yeah, show us an example of that.
So in
Where-
bar 21, that traveling along, the bass, it's a D flat and the bass is on the A flat. So the A flat is doubled on a D flat chord. And why couldn't they just sing a D flat? Because they're singing a D flat next.
Okay, so the arranger did that for a specific reason. Why do you suppose?
No idea. Tell us, please.
Walking bass, walk down the line before you.
Yeah, they like the line. They like the line, I
It
assume.
makes
But
them
really
bass
walking
more
bass.
melodic.
I just thought you really weren't supposed to double the fifth.
Yeah, and they could have put the baritone on the D flat in that case. If they really want the bass to be on A flat, just give the baritone the D flat.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah,
why.
yeah.
And it happens many times. It happens in 17
Yeah.
Yeah.
right at the beginning, and I'm not really sure why.
I think just
Probably
to make
'cause-
the bass line more melodic and make it sound more like it's traveling, I guess, instead of hopping from place to place, it's traveling. I don't know.
But
I
in
think-
terms and the balance, in terms of ease of tuning, particularly for a C level group, I mean, which is the safer choice, the voice leading or the strong chord?
It depends on the situation. It depends on what the melody is doing, I think. I mean, that's how I look at it, but everybody looks at it in a different way. I think for a C level group, you want to try to make they all want to have an interesting part. And travel along, travel along. Yeah.
Gina, I was just thinking, if you look at that 29 again, if you did what you were saying, if you brought that bass and travel along, then that works.
That would really make
You know,
sense. I was thinking that same thing, Judy.
if you brought the bass up, traveling along, then that makes a nice.
Okay, I'm lost. Where's 29? 29 doesn't say travel
29.
along.
Travel the road.
Travel the road. Okay.
Well, yeah, I often say the wrong words.
It's the one that has the funky chord, the funky note
But
for
you
the
could
bass.
put that funky chord in it would be a nice, cool deal if the bass changed to a D flat instead of an A flat. And then again, you wouldn't.
The road. It wouldn't be so awkward.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't make the chord jump out like, what is that doing there? You know, it would sound more natural, I guess.
I think sometimes you do it like in measure 17, for instance, they also have the doubling of the fifth, and I mean, or the doubling, so the bass, because of the bass line, you see, so that makes a nice line where if they were saying da 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 da, is this nice a vocal line, and it wouldn't be as smooth in the delivery because everybody else has things that will move that way. So that might have more sense to it than I think perhaps that other one. You know, maybe you want to change the whole thing and make all of those bass lines like 21 and 29 and everything going traveling along. See, that might make more sense than to make them all traveling along. Yeah, I mean, another thought, huh? It's not a right. You know, always say it's not a right or wrong. It's what works and what works better, and what feels good to you and what sounds cool, and everybody can sing it. So, you know, but it's not wrong to double that fifth, except, you know, it is not as strong a chord oftentimes, but you do it because you want the vocal line. And so, but it's something to be aware of, and you guys are aware of it.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
Okay.
And it happens on a, you know, it's not like the downbeat of the measure or something. That makes a difference too.
True.
Yeah. Yay. Okay, let's talk about, are we all done with this portion? I just want to make sure we're covering everything we need to cover, but let's talk about the embellishments. Now, who was it that said, well, why don't they have an embellishment at the end of every section? You know, part A, part B. If you did that every time, it would be like overkill. But what do you think about the embellishments in this song? And the embellishments that they did, even though there are spots that probably could have used like more forward motion embellishments, did the embellishments that were put in this arrangement, did they help the forward motion of the song?
Yep.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
They're generally intuitive, low complexity. There just aren't very many.
Right.
There are not. It's a pretty. This is a pretty what we might call in my former life as an advertising exec was a boilerplate. This is kind of like, this is the way, this is the starting point. Now we're going to go from there. You know, it's not wrong. It's just, it could be maybe dressed up a little bit and without too much difficulty, and make it a little more fun maybe for the singers.
Yeah.
I thought that as I looked at the embellishments, I saw that there was a couple of instances of tenor bass contrary motion.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
like measure 16, tenor bass, contrary motion with chords opening up for the chorus start.
Yep.
I thought that was nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Those are, the
Measure 8.
verse has them, doesn't it? The verse has the embellishments. I
I'm
think.
sorry?
I said
Yeah.
the verse really does have some very nice embellishments, and you can just hear it being really cool to sing. It's very, she's Ruth is really good at that kind of thing. Yeah. And the measure 12, this is a very nice move, and I love
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Bass gets involved with it, and then
Oh, yeah.
it has a nice tension there when that bass comes up to the baritone, and then they go into the swipe. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So, and because it's this little peppy up tune, I guess she figured that let's just sing the peppy up tune,
Mhm.
and not make it too complicated.
Yeah. Very
You
nice.
know, earlier, I think Abby, I think it was you who was talking about how you felt there was a need for forward motion at the hook side by side. But I
Mhm.
noticed that she didn't do anything, or what's her name? Emily? Ruth.
Yeah.
She didn't seem to embellish that anywhere in the song except just in the tag.
Yeah. Why do you suppose she did that?
Mhm.
Well, it's not a very elaborate tag.
True.
No, actually, it's not a bad tag.
It's fun.
Yeah. No, it's a nice tag. But let's see, singing songs. Well, because she chose the method of extending the time that's given to each of those words.
Mhm.
Yes, yes,
And so she embellished around each of them
yes.
for the forward motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very clever.
And emphasis too. Emphasis on side by side.
Yeah. Because that's what the song title is. Yeah. I have to tell you, we did a fun quartet. I know we had silly quartet nights at our regional weekends where you could kind of do whatever. And we one time sang this song, and it was a double quartet, but we walked out as a quartet. There were like
Oh, nice.
two of us, we were one pant leg in it, so we looked like a giant quartet. But even though there were 8 of us, and so we sang at the end. I always think of this. We're together now, stuck forever now. We're side by side. It makes me think of this. It was a big hit. Just changing
That's
that little
nice.
lyrical change there.
Nice idea.
Anyway, so let's talk about the key change for a minute. Where was that? Right here. So the typical key change for especially a C level group would be to make it go up a half step, and that's what this one does. And so, what kind of chord progressions did they use to make that happen?
5-1.
Just E flat, E flat, E flat, E, and then E natural 7. I found this hard to, I don't think this would be an easy key change. Doesn't have it much. I mean, unless you count from 53, 54. Would you count that as the key change, or just starting at 55?
Oh, I counted it 55, really.
Yeah.
So why
that-
do you say that? What makes
Well,
it
it's a
hard?
little bit, I don't know, I've been told it's a little bit too simple to just go 5/7 of last key, up a semitone, 5/7 of new key, which is, it's not difficult to sing, but it's difficult to hear orally where it's going. The chords don't change enough. It just sort of like everything goes up by a semitone, and then you're expected to hear the new key.
Yeah.
Right.
And then that little duet as well, that's
Yeah, that's
probably not
pretty
cohesive
tricky.
enough. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
the duet starts on an incomplete A chord.
Yeah, that'd be very hard that'd be super hard for the basses. I mean, I guess semitone. No, actually, it's not even a semitone up. That would be difficult for the basses to go B, C sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having said that, I sang it out and it sings very well.
Yeah, it sings
okay.
well. Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought it sang well. It's just,
I think partly because it's going from the E flat 9 to the 7 rather
Mhm.
than just an E flat 7 to an E7 semitones. The lead movement from the F to the E natural is a lot more intuitive.
Good, good. Yeah.
Sometimes
So-
the little duet thing in there is nice. That I think that it is a little difficult task for the basses to find that particular thing. I wouldn't ever want to count on my basses to be responsible for the key change, but
oh dear.
not, I love them, but I just think that wouldn't be maybe my favorite thing to either, but it could be another kind of a duet there for, it could be the baritone and
They could handle it.
the baritone, ba, 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 and have it be the baritones, because they're already on that note, as are the leads. So it could be a baritone lead duet. It could be
Mhm.
4 parts put into there, and then the basses actually wouldn't change at all. They bum, bum, bum. But I think the half step, I think your point, I think, Abby, did you make it, or Emily? I can't remember. I was looking at, I'm trying to make notes and looking up, but I think that it is, I think in general, a half step key change is a little more difficult than, a different kind of a key change. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, it doesn't fall into place as well, maybe. Am I saying,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying?
It's not as
Yeah.
clear. So you could very easily make that 4-part chord. So at 56, you have everything that's there, but you just fill in. So it goes E7, A, E7. And then when you get to 57, it's really, really already in your ear.
Yes, that would be much safer for
It's odd to have like 56, the little duet is technically that's an A chord, but it's incomplete. And it's just, I think it's a bit,
It makes it hard to really lock in the new
Yeah.
key. Mhm.
yeah.
Particularly for
Well, they-
momentum and dynamics as well, because presumably you're going to be crescendoing into the new key. And if you then just got a 2-part pickup, you're not going
Ah.
to be able to maintain dynamics.
Right.
It's a very
yeah.
good point. Did you just say, do you say the chord, what were you going to do with the basses on a 4-part chord there?
Oh, I'd have to write it out, I guess. So then you'd go 56 basses, go B natural, probably A natural.
I
Yeah,
think
so,
you
I
go-
mean, you have to write it out.
No, you
but-
said A. Yeah, you said A
Yeah, so,
chord.
yeah, so an A major chord and then an E7 chord.
Yeah.
But you're right, the bass shouldn't be on a C sharp
But
anyway.
if the bass is singing, thinking about what the bass is like saying, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter it doesn't matter at all when they've all, that's a bass line. When they've
Yeah.
all, you want the basses to go down to the E and then into the, so they can hear where the chord is. So, yeah.
Yeah. When they roll. Yeah, I would put
Basically, yeah, right. The
it would
baritone,
help. It would help the new key if the basses were on an A. On
Yeah.
when, yeah, it would help everyone establish the new key.
I would
They'd be
think-
able
That's
to hear it better.
And same for the tenors, like it's hard for them to be on a D natural and then a breath and then come way down to A. That's probably a little
Yeah, that's
hard.
tricky.
They'd have to really work on that jump. So if you give them actually they should have the C sharp really.
Yes.
Or the
Yep.
okay, I think that the chord repeats on, let's see, it doesn't matter at all, when
Yeah.
they've all. That's what I
okay,
think.
just keep E7 right through it.
So it stays with this chord repeats when, and that yet then revoiced with the bass, yeah, right? The same chord.
Oh,
you
well,
need the
yeah, I guess
E7.
you could. Yeah.
I wouldn't go to that A chord at all. I mean, I just stand it.
Because you want to maintain the tension, don't you? You don't actually want to hit the new tonic until downbeat.
Right, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good point. Yep.
That's what I would do anyway.
So you keep the E7 chord, but just revoice it on the last note of that measure?
You would
Yeah,
revoice it on the when. Oh yeah. Well,
The
yeah.
when?
The all, same chord, when, and so then
Yeah.
the
They just revoiced it.
just revoiced it. but let everybody, I just think you'd be stronger than, it's beautiful, but I wouldn't trust my basses to get up to that. You know, you didn't give them, you got to give clues to everything to your singers. There's no clue from here
Yeah.
that all of a sudden you're going to go to this note, right?
Mhm.
You want to give them clues so that they will go to the right places. Maybe you might give that to Queens, you know.
Yeah. For a C-level group we're talking, so yeah, you want to.
Yeah,
I don't
give
think
them
Queens
some
would sing
clues.
this.
I just
Yeah.
mean, I think that
Vocal skill wise, yeah. Yeah.
all assignment to expect your basses to do that, maybe in a quartet. Yeah, the quartet bass. But anyway,
Yeah.
just all these things are just fun to look at and go, I hadn't thought of that. I hadn't thought of that. You know, as we
Mhm.
go through and then we're going, then you come across it in your own thing and you're going like, let's see. Because a lot of times when we make the mistake, I think we've talked about it, but you make the mistake of not singing it or not, or it looks good or it sounds good on the piano. But then when you go to sing it, it's like, dang, I'm having trouble finding that note. If you're having trouble finding it, you got a lot of singers going to have trouble finding it. So maybe we need a better plan. So
Mhm.
yeah, okay, good.
Yay. So after you're done making your arrangement, I always go through and sing each part to see, are there any, like, if I trip over a certain part, I think, oh, well, maybe I need to use a different voicing there or something. And so when you're looking at these arrangements, look for that kind of stuff when you go through each part and say, does it feel like most baritones could sing that, or most basses could do that? Because that's when you would look at this and you go, oh, just like Judy said, there's no way my basses could do that. So then I would then look at that and go, oh, I better come up with something else instead. Yeah. All right. Anything else about what we want to talk about with this song? Wow.
Yeah, I was just going to say one other thing about that. Sorry, but it doesn't matter at all if you had possibly that instead of the basses doing that C sharp there, and have it be a tenor lead, you could accomplish the same thing and perhaps put a fermata after them. After it doesn't matter at all. And let the tenors bring it down with the leads, and then thereby, because they're already on the note, right? You know what I mean?
Right. And that would avoid that awkward jump for the tenors then too. Yeah.
And the tenors are going, I mean, that's an easy step down for them. And it would be a cool thing. And maybe have a little brighter note to it too, because instead of a lower duet, a higher duet, taking us into the next thing. And then the basses have a while to figure out what the next note is. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Yeah, I think they'd hear it better. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's just another thing I'm bringing up because when you look at your thing sometime and go, oh, who would be the best thing? I heard maybe I wanted to hear the basses, but maybe another part would be a good place for the duet. I mean, or whichever place it might be, you know what I mean? Just look around and see who might be in the best position to do an important duet like that, taking you into the next key. It better be really solid, to be, as I think Emily said, or Abby said, that it's like, it might not be strong enough there to, if it's not 4 parts, it better be really strong parts that we can all hear too. And by taking the tenors up to it. So anyway. Okay.
Yeah, for a C-level group, you're always safer to do 4 parts going into a key change because it'll help everybody anchor it in and cement it better. Yeah.
What if you threw the berries in too? What if you threw the berries into that chord too to get a trio up top there?
Well, you could, sure.
Just to flush it out a little more.
Good. Yeah.
Another good possibility. Yeah. All right. Are there any other comments or questions about side by side?
I was going to point out in measure 22, the a misspelled chord there that I think
Aha.
would be better if it weren't misspelled.
Oh, very good catch. Yes.
Yeah. So which chord are you talking about? I mean, I know, but which one?
The E7 chord on the word A, the singing A
Yeah.
song.
Aha.
It should, that A should be, instead of an A flat, it should be a G sharp.
Very
Exactly.
good.
Yes,
You're right.
very good. Yes. Gina and I were talking about those earlier, and another one in particular, and I had noticed a couple of those. I'm really glad you pointed it out. That again may have been an old right, and a new right is we strive to spell them correctly. And
Yeah. Back in the day when this arrangement was made, they were not that concerned with spelling chords correctly. They wanted the visual line, the horizontal line, to be easy for the part to be able to do. But number one, we have smarter singers now. Number two, if we want to be recognized in the music genre as a legitimate getting tangled, legitimate genre, we need to follow the music rules and spell the chords correctly. And we're smarter singers now to know that wouldn't throw anybody to, if it said A flat G, G sharp A, that wouldn't throw our singers. And so I think that's something that we would be more aware of as an arranger of today than an arranger of back then. Good job. Yeah.
I have a question about bar 16.
Okay.
Thinking about ending that verse and before you go into the chorus, you might have a slowdown on the star art, and then you've got a pause on the O and a pause on the we. Can you just do the start as in do that pass through the 3 notes and then just start on we? So you've only got one big pause there instead of a couple of pauses?
Oh, you mean to go start and then just go we ain't?
Yeah, and keep the barries on the E and keep the leads on the G and just go start, we ain't.
Oh, I see. Instead of saying the word oh.
Yeah, instead of saying the word oh. I was just thinking about how many pauses there are in that.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. That's a really good idea. Yeah. That would be
so what you're saying, Liz, is, as I understand, is keeping the leads on the G and leaving the baritones on the E flat the whole time. And
yes.
so brand new start, I think, that's all really good for good continuity too. There's not much to be gained from flip-flopping those notes if you just let the other 2 parts move and they stay strong. It's a really good point. I like that a lot.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. All these little decisions you have to make as an
What did
arranger.
you all come up with on measure 6, that second chord? What did you call that?
6, the second chord.
That's right here.
Where are we?
And G flat 6.
And
E
yes.
flat minor 7,
That's what I put.
E flat
G
minor
flat
7.
6. G flat 6.
Yeah.
So
So
it's
it's either one of those, isn't
right.
it? And so which one do you think it might be the correct name if there were ones to choose from?
I chose G flat because the bass is on G flat, 2 flat 6.
Well, and
That's
also the chopstick is in the middle.
Bingo. There you go.
The major second
Oh, yeah,
exists
yeah.
as opposed to being spread.
Right. And lots of times that's the key right there. That's the
Right.
even though there'll be exceptions to every rule because there are neighboring parts that have that second. Then
And that's right. And and you had, I think all of those points were valid. And when you see where the bass is before and after it with the F, so basically going from the F, we would think F, G flat, F. I mean, they're right next to each other. And also the baritone is on the E flat. And generally that will not be the key of the chord, generally.
Oh.
We don't give a name of a chord to a baritone very often. They don't know what to do with the name of the chord.
I would be offended.
You would be offended. What? I don't want to be on the tonic. I'm not a tonic singer. Give me a third, give me a seventh, give me a diminished, give me anything.
That's funny. Yeah.
But I think it's important to do, and I actually only learned that neighboring parts, and one of the things that we were doing, I really had never heard of it, but I think it's a brilliant concept to me, is to be able to figure out. I used to futz with myself over whether or not it's was this a minor 7 or a 6 or whatever, and then that thing is that it was really glue. It isn't 100%, as Jean would say, but it gives you really good clues, doesn't it?
Yeah, right.
You have several things to go on there. Otherwise, sometimes you're going like, I don't know, how would I know? Just what my ear tells me. Well, no, there are also clues. Yeah. So
if
Yeah.
we compared it to first beaten by 2, that one we'd call a minor 7 rather than a major 6 because we don't have the neighboring.
where are you, hun? Where are you?
Measure 2, first beat on make.
Make it.
First beat and make. Yeah, it's just a B flat minor 7, right?
Are you talking about make or are you talking about it? Which chord are you talking about?
Oh, just about make.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what did
Yeah,
you think it was, Emily?
Oh, that one's a minor 7 rather than a 6 because you haven't got the. Is that right? Have I understood that correctly?
Well, I think
Yes.
that's just a plain. I don't think you can find. Can you find a 6 out of that? I guess.
Can you make that? Can you stack that to make it a 6 chord?
Can't you call it a D flat 6 if you're being creative? aren't all minor 7ths arguably major 6th?
D
Have I
flat
understood that
F.
correctly?
Oh, D
But
flat F,
this
A
one you'd
flat.
call a B flat minor 7,
I
whereas
see-
the
I
other
see.
one.
I see how you got to there. Yeah, I think that one.
Right.
Okay, so this chord clearly, when you play it, you hear the B flat, bum bum bum. You hear that that's clearly a B flat minor 7. You don't need to rethink it. The ones that you have to rethink are the ones like in 6 where it's like going, this is not clear to me. This could be this and this could be this. Do you hear what I mean? I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. No, I'm just still really slow at naming, so I come at it from weird angles and still often get major
and you
6.
know, Oh, here's another thing that would tell you, because obviously the name of the chord is generally going to be on the lead or the bass. And if the name of the chord were a D flat chord, that would be the tenor, and that didn't happen. They're gonna go. They're not on the. Almost never would the name of the chord be on the tenor note.
Right. And also they, let's see, who would be the neighboring parts? So, okay. So the neighboring parts would be the B flat and the A, right?
But they're not
but they're
neighboring.
they're not neighboring because it's not the interval of a second in
Okay.
this case. Okay. So
Yeah.
even though they're in the neighboring parts, what makes measure 6, what makes this happen is the neighboring parts are an interval of a second.
All right.
So that's another way to tell.
Okay. That's good. And reversing that's good as well, knowing to try to avoid putting tonic on barry and tenor, because I think I do that
Yes.
too often.
Yes.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. All
How
right.
about-
Anything
How about,
else?
sorry, Jean, how about
I have
in measure 10, the second chord?
Measure 10, the second chord. What about that? What is that?
G flat 9 is what I
D
thought.
flat 9.
D
Yes.
flat 9, good job.
Yep.
Yeah.
May I ask a question about another chord, please?
Sure.
Okay, in measure 9, the second chord,
Uh-huh.
the second chord right there,
Yeah.
is that an A flat 9 that's missing a 7th?
No, let me think
And-
about that.
What? Are you
Right here
talking-
on you. We talking about on you?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was looking. Yeah.
Marked it as an A flat
Oh.
major 9.
Oh, that's an A flat major 9, isn't it?
Yes. How do you
Yes,
know?
okay.
How do you
Sorry,
know that? How do you know that's an A flat major 9?
because you've got your triad and then you've got your 9th.
Right. So what's missing?
Yeah. The 7th,
The
The flat
7th is
7.
missing. Yes.
right.
So in a major 9th chord, it's the 7th that will always be missing.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Good.
Yay.
Major 9, okay.
And that's not a very common chord, so we're not used to
No.
Um,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
not used to identifying it.
Right. That's weird. You look at that and go, what?
Yeah, it's really just because the melody's on the 9, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly.
That's exactly when you use the major ninth.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Very
Right,
good.
okay.
Any other things about this song?
I was just interested in the group's thoughts about the tag in terms of whether it feels like one that's natural or stuck on.
Yeah. What you feeling about that? You know, like when you sing through it, we talked about sometimes Judy and I did a class on tags, and we discovered all kinds of things that we never really analyzed before. Some tags are the song ends at the 16 bar or 32 bar, and then they add the measures for the tag. And yet some tags use the ending of the 32 bars, some of those measures, and include that as part of the tag. And so this one, because they stretch the timing of side by side, they took part of the 32 bars and used that as part of the tag. And so when we started looking at that, thinking, oh, what about the rule that says a tag should be 4 measures, 8 measures? What comes right down to it is, does it feel awkward or does it feel okay in the grand scheme of singing the song? So that, so it doesn't always follow exactly, So what do you think when you think about this tag?
When I sang it
I like
out, following the tempo marking, it felt too short. It felt like the song ended abruptly,
Ah,
even though form-wise it worked. Whereas I felt if you ignored the tempo marking and made it swing, then it would feel like the right length.
yes.
In terms of having just had that really climactic moment of the singing a song. And then it felt to me like it needed a we're together now, love forever, sort of thing, jaunty thing, rather than the very quick da-da-da-da-da, it's over.
Oh, yeah. Good point. Yeah. What about the rest of you? What did you think about the tag?
I had totally overlooked the tempo thing. I didn't even see that.
Ah, yeah.
I think it's hard compared to the rest of the song. And I didn't know why 65 had that bass move. That confused me. Maybe I'm bogged down in details, but in 65, the bass moves really unnecessarily.
Oh, yeah. But I do remember in the day, they did tags like that a lot. Do you remember that, Judy? Putting those little bass notes in there like that?
Oh, yeah.
That was like a trendy thing back then, I think. Was one of the reasons that's in there like that.
Well, unless the director says, well, I'm going to take advantage of that and slow it way down just so that you can hear that diminished chord come in there.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Side.
Yeah, making a big thing out of it, really milking it. Yeah.
I feel like it's another reason because it's written for a C-level chorus.
Mm-hmm.
Because you do the writ and then you want to get rid of the end because most C-level choruses struggle at the end of a song and keeping the energy up is a real struggle. So if you do it quickly, it's easier.
Yeah, good point. Yes. And when I listen to this song, when I'm listening to the whole thing, I'm like, oh yeah, it doesn't slap me in the face like, ooh, that's a funny little way to end a song. That doesn't bother me when I listen to this song, where I've heard some songs that does bother. But that did bother Abby, right? Were you the one that said you felt like it was too short? I forget who said that.
Emily.
Oh, Emily said it. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well,
so
can we go back and see where the climax was another one that I found challenging. Only about one of these songs, I actually was like, there's the climax. Every other song, I was like, is it there? Is it there? So maybe, are we just assuming that the tag is the last 4 measures? I guess it is. Because that 62 is a little bit of a pre-tag transition. It's that I put 62 as the climax, but I wasn't sure. Maybe 61.
Yeah.
Because that'll depend on what you do with the treatment of the tag as well.
Yeah. Right. The way the fermatas are, I would say 62 is the climax. But what do you think, Judy?
Such low voicing is a bit weird, isn't it? Because wouldn't a climax generally be the loudest? Not necessarily.
Yeah, but I do feel that that's loud there, the way that it's closed voicing right there. On the
Okay, so even though the
singing.
tenor is low, it'll still be loud because it's closed.
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
What's the definition of the tag? What's the definition of a tag? I mean, of a climax, the musical climax.
Oh, a climax.
Yeah. What is that? What's the most important part of that, do you think?
Sort of the goal of it's like the highest point. So it's the goal of the whole, and it should, yeah.
Exactly.
And
Generally,
exciting, yeah.
the highest point musically as well as lyrically.
Lyrically, yes. That doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
If you can put those two together, sometimes that doesn't always happen. But I think this is probably, I just say with all due respect, probably has maybe one of the weaker climaxes in the song. And let me explain. If we're going someplace started just traveling along, singing a song, you could arguably say that could be it. Sometimes the high point of the song is the very last note. And in this case, I think that has to be side by side. We're side by side. That is the biggest musical moment is there. Because, but if you wanted it to be otherwise, let me just suggest that you would want to go sing in a song and then swipe it up.
So the same chord, but just open voicing.
Open it up so,
Yeah.
or whatever, so that the whole chord opens up. Then you would have a high point musically, whether or not you wanted to do that. But I think you really can't have a high point of a song end on a closed voice chord.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Singing a song. I mean, it's kind of like a depressing ending. Singing a song. It ought to go, shouldn't it? But that we need to always look for the high point musically, and if we can lyrically, and sometimes it's the last note.
Good point.
Yeah.
Judy?
Yeah.
Would you also say that in that measure, another alternative would be to start with the closed voicing and to try to put some contrary motion in, moving it out, opening that chord up to the end, singing a song and growing it out like that?
I think but it's kind of a cool progression, isn't it? Long singing a song. It just seems to me it wants to do something. I want it to go somewhere, But then I'm, kind of a junkie about stuff like that. I just want something exciting to happen, and that wouldn't be exciting enough for me. But I think, but taking everybody up except the leads, singing a song because they're going to go on to that F sharp. But those are just, these are window shopping, ladies, and just doing window shopping. And it would be also fun for you sometime to go when we're going. Okay, so when you take things out of rhythm, like you got this going along here, and what you got side by side, and then you go to through all kinds of weather in general, and of course Jean is a retired music judge, but in general, so if I'm overstepping my bounds as not a music judge, but as a director forever, we would know that you change that tempo that many times, you get people's feet tapping, right? So now we have, as long as we're together, it doesn't matter at all. When they walk, da 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 da. Then it's gonna go bum ba da 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 da. Okay, so in general, when you're putting your arrangements together, I would try to avoid maybe all of those, slow down, stop, go, try to limit the number of times that you want to do it. Maybe that's just a director thing, I don't know. But if it's built into the arrangement, you kind of need to do it, don't you?
Yeah.
If you went on, maybe it wouldn't seem, I think, was it Emily or Abby that said it seemed short. If you went, we'll be the same as we started, just traveling along, singing a song, ba ba da 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 da, we're side by side, but then maybe it needed to have not all those holds in there or a bigger musical climax in the middle. I know that was a lot of things all at one time, and I'm sorry I talked too fast.
Confusing. Yeah.
I know, I'm slow down.
Yeah, I think it was schmaltzy like that on purpose, just to,
And it is, yeah, I'm just,
you know.
yeah.
Very, very good points. Yeah. So when we started talking about tags, good Lord. So how long is this tag? I mean, where is the tag? Would you say it's the last 4 measures? Would you say it's just we're side by side? What would you say?
Counted the last 4 measures.
It feels like the last 4 measures because of the way she stretched out side by side. She did that to help create a tag. Yeah. Yeah.
We should also learn that in the new right is to label these things. You will notice that many of the things we're going to examine didn't put tags on there. We have to stop and figure out where's a tag and why is it there. So, but in our arrangements, it's, you need to say intro, verse, chorus, tag, or if there's no intro, you know what I'm saying? We need to identify where the tag is, and that's not an easy thing to do. We'll be talking about that as we go through, but just as a matter of making sure that just putting double bars in it isn't enough. And this one doesn't even have a double bar, does it?
No, not for the tag area at all. Right.
It doesn't say tag, it doesn't say double bar. So, but normally today we like to do those things. I mean, yeah.
So obviously Jean didn't edit this for submission.
No.
Jean would have corrected the spelling. And
that's right. Exactly. That's right.
Yep.
Very good. Okay, so you see, I think all the things we've talked about in this song it's a really good learning tool. And when I look at the time, we've spent an hour and a half on this one song. I'm glad that you did the homework of all of them, but I think it's important to take our time to go through this stuff. So I think we can maybe start we were trying to keep this to about 2 hours, or if you're brain dead, or we could try to we could go through a second song, which might go to 2.5 hours. I don't know. And so in the upcoming sessions that we're going to have, because we have other homework stuff to do, we can just keep going like this. We have another session next week, right? And so we'll continue and do like song number 2 and 3, or song number 3 and 4, or something. Or we can split it up and do one song with each activity coming up. But I think it's important that we stick with this and do them all, even though it's time consuming. So we know from doing this with another group that this takes a long time to get through this activity, because it's important to look at all those little things. Yeah.
It's really helpful though. I'm finding it helpful to put it all together, and it's really helpful.
Yes.
I have a general question.
Okay.
How much do you think, she said these were older and I don't see a date on publication, but how much of these, back before they had, computers and all that stuff, how much of this would have been sort of wood shopped and then just sort of I'm wondering if one of these, that bass line that's been irritating me and I don't buy it, that it needs to be doubled on the 5th.
Oh yeah.
How much of this do you think came from just having a standard arrangement, and then she was like, oh, I'm gonna publish my arrangement now that I've been performing with my quartet? Does that happen quite a bit with the older ones?
Oh yes, I think so. Yeah.
Which is kind of neat. It's a lot more natural, isn't it?
Yes.
We're all we can tweak every note that we want, but when you write everything by hand, they probably think, well, we always did it this way and we know it sounds good and it works. So that could be a reason why. And is this old enough that she wouldn't necessarily have been following set rules? She would have been sort of a pioneer of, she does it by ear, and therefore the rules are based on what's done 90% of the time?
Well,
is that kind of part of it too?
That very well could be part of it. Yes.
Yeah. Because you find that with classical music, where you study, the masters of classical music, and they break all the rules.
Yeah.
And it's like, they weren't breaking the rules. They actually had a convention that was not 100% of the time. And then our rules are based on the analysis of that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're gonna
I
find
think I think they had these rules. I think this is just how Ruth designed this. And you know, and it was a it has some complicated chords and maybe some not, but that is how I think she probably did. Jean, do you remember when we did way back when in the Proved Rangers, when we did I'm all dressed up with a broken heart?
Yes, yes.
I
right.
remember that Emily, when I met Ruth Emily there, and she was not well. Remember, she was like in a wheelchair or something like that.
Yeah.
She was really not, she was older. But I remember that when they played, we all had to arrange these things, and then they all got it was kind of brutal.
Critique. Yeah.
Yeah. If you think that we're having fun with some of your arrangements, you should have done been one of those things. They're gonna play it, and it's like up there and they're going, and people are like, you know, Anne Minahane and Nancy
Re-
Bergman here
and
kind of
Really
rolling their eyes.
Craig and
No,
yeah.
no, but we did this. I'm all dressed up with a broken heart. I don't know if you know the song, but I remember when Ruth Emily's arrangement was played. That I mean, there were literally tears in eyes. It was so beautiful, and out of all of that, those arrangements. But I think you get that flavor from her on this verse because this has the ballad feel to it, and it's real rich and lovely. And it has, yes, places that we would now go, oh, oops, tritone, oh,
Yeah.
oops, fifth on, you know.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, the overall flow of it, we need to remember that those are important. We can maybe improve on them, but what we know now to avoid some of those things. But I think we will take the a page out of some really fine work here, and then the places that we know that we could do better on, or maybe we've learned some things from there, and we could you know, examined it thoroughly. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that she was really a lovely person.
Oh yeah, and so I don't think Ruth was ever like a music major or ever had formal music training. She just used her barbershop ear and her heart
Mhm.
to arrange. Yeah.
So when do you think roughly, what decade would this have been arranged? You know?
Oh boy, I don't know. Would have
I
been.
don't know, probably, yeah, probably in the 70s or
Yeah, I
70s.
was gonna say 70s too. I
Yeah,
don't know,
70s.
60s, 70s, or
Mhm.
I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, I just remember. Yeah, I remember Ruth. She was cool. Yeah. Right. Anything else about this song?
Could I just ask one other question?
Sure,
Sorry to keep on
absolutely.
this one.
No.
Just Judy, if we were to put a swipe on song in bar 62 as it currently is voiced, how
62?
in 62, if we were to swipe upwards to make
Oh.
song the climactic chord, how would you voice the second chord in the swipe? And would it be acceptable to have consecutive fifths on the tenor lead so that you end up with the lead on the fifth rather than the third?
So, Emily, do I understand you want to go travel along singing a song? You want the lead to go up? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, she
If
has
we-
to sing in a song.
If we leave it as is, but do the
something?
swipe as you
Oh, did
mentioned
the swipe
before,
up?
how
Yeah.
would you voice the swipe? Because I have big issues with this because I often end up with lead on thirds or sevenths, and that's not going to tune very
In general,
well.
you want to keep you want to keep some notes that were going, so it'd be like wait. So in other words, the lead would stay there, song, and the baritone,
Okay.
song, song. So the bass doesn't move, the lead doesn't move, the baritones, and that. Now some people would say song would have the lead move. I don't like. I think that's not very strong, but
Yeah.
you could have that too. So it's going to go. Bass stays on the C sharp. Tenor goes up to the E.
Mm-hmm.
Lead stays in the F sharp, and the baritone takes that tritone up to the B flat, or the A sharp rather. Or you could have the baritones song and song, however you wanted it to be. I don't particularly like to see the leads do that. I'd rather see a big swipe from the tenor and the baritone, and have the tonic held through by the melody.
Yeah.
Singing a song side, but it could be song. However,
Yeah.
It might depend on the group that's singing it. It might depend on the vocal skills of the group singing it too.
Yeah.
Because there could be some C-level groups that it would be very hard to balance the baritones going song, you know, that might be a tricky thing for some of the groups at their skill level. So it could go either way. Yeah.
Yeah.
and the other, let me just mention some, and she's exactly right. If the amount of space or time or notes that you're going to swipe, like these two, they're both going to go approximately the same, the baritone and the tenor. If you put the 3 parts to move, then the baritones only have from song there, and so you have to time it. And these, and so then there's a littler move, and then a bigger move here. Why don't
Yeah.
you have
If
2?
you're
that are
gonna
gonna
slide it. Yeah.
approximately the same, so that the swipe goes together, and then you tell the leads that it's their job to maintain the tonal center. So put some razzmatazz on that note. Song, you better come out, or the baritones will bury you.
Yes,
So
exactly.
if you put the 3 parts moving, where does, I assume the bass is the other one that moves? Are they going to an E?
No, the bass can't. No, well, unless you could. Here's another. Okay, here's another idea for you, which I think is wonky. But if you wanted the bass to go down there, you could. But I think that's stronger barbershop. But you could go and have a great big open chord,
I'm the
which is
same.
you better have 4 really good parts to make that balance. And but it could be extremely, cool. It
Wait,
depends.
I think you just confused me, Judy. So
I don't know what you're saying.
yeah, so she presented it in 2 different ways. She presented it that the bass and the lead could hold the note that they have,
Right.
and only have the baritone and tenor swipe.
Right.
That's one version you could do.
Right. I got that one.
Or you could keep the bass on that note and have the other 3 parts move.
Oh, okay.
Either way, it's going to create the same second chord.
Right.
Okay.
And this is the same second chord too, only she said, could the bass move? And I said, then the bass would have to go down. It's the same chord, only the bass went down to the F sharp. The baritone went down to the C sharp. The leads went up to the A sharp, and the tenors went up to the E. It's a really exotic thing to do. I'll just leave it exotic. But she asked, so I answered.
Yeah.
Well, I asked in my ignorance because I didn't know what you were
No,
saying.
But
that's
it's a
okay.
possibility.
That's
It's a
good. Yeah.
possibility, Donna.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's not a
Okay.
wrong. It's just whatever you think sounds cool, and you might, but that would be the direction that everybody is going out. That's one thing that's kind of cool about it, is that
Yeah.
everybody's moving out. I think that you would want to have a really large chorus to do that, because you need so much strength in all of that, to have, and because everybody's going to go away from their notes, nothing holds on. So
Right.
if one of those things in a swipe, if at least one part is staying there and holds a center, either a tonic or a fifth. So yeah.
And that's a really crucial point for a C-level group, to have somebody staying as the anchor. That helps all of them tune, that helps their vocal skills and their capabilities of being successful. Yeah. Those are good questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything more about this song? All right. So now we're just about done with our 2 hours. And so I don't know how you're feeling, if you're like brain dead, or you want to wait till next time to tackle all by myself, or you want to start it, or, is this a good ending spot for right now? It's up to you guys.
Keep going.
Yeah. So do you want to keep going, or do you want to stop. It's up to you guys. You're the ones that, I know sometimes I hear all this stuff and I'm like, overload, enough,
I don't know how much longer I'll be able to concentrate for.
Yeah, that's the hard part. It's a lot of focus. But I tell you, I think it's very worthwhile to take our time on doing this particular activity with these songs, because it's going to help you so much in the long run when you are trying to make choices for your own arrangements. Yeah. So why don't we just stop right here? And I think because this was the first song we're going through, I mean, we were being very detailed, and I think when we go to the next song, even though we're going to be covering the same kind of topics, that it's going to move quicker.
Yeah.
Because many of your questions that you had for this particular song, it's going to make sense now when you go to the next song. Yeah. So, what do you think?
I still think I'll be stuck on where the climaxes are.
Yeah. Yes.
Like Abby
oh, might be. Yes.
I have trouble with that too.
Yeah.
They just seem to flow along.
Yeah. Some melodies have an automatic climax, melodic climax in it with the it's great when the climax is musically the high point and lyrically the high point. Some songs don't have a climax at all, and you as an arranger have to somehow create a climax somewhere too. So that's something when you're looking for a song to arrange, I would try to find one that has a climax in the melody already.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to create your own climax when you're first learning how to arrange. Yeah.
Say one thing on that since we're not going on. I was surprised with this song. I would have expected the melody on the hook to go down the octave and then at the end go up the octave. Side by side, side by side. It surprised me that right from the beginning, it seems like that could be the climax, is to jump, because that melody would work either way, and then it would, to jump either way. So I thought if I was arranging it, I'd probably do it down the octave the first time.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
I don't understand what you said, Abby.
So the main chorus and the main hook, the melody that goes traveling along, singing a song, side by side. I was surprised that the melody didn't go low. So traveling along, singing a song, side by side. It just seemed like it could easily make the melody for side by side. I would have thought the melody would have gone down the octave the first time. I don't know, just seemed like an opportunity for variety.
I marked that as a variation from the way everybody knows it. It's a little, I thought it was a little odd.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just you could change that every time the side by side comes in. You could have down the octave once, tenor take it up the octave once, lead take it up the octave once, for example.
Oh, that's true.
But like you said, simplify for ease.
It might depend on the length of the song too, because I always go back to, especially with barbershop stuff, I always go back to like theme and variation. Have you ever heard of the first time through the chorus you're going to try to keep the theme as is, and then when you go back and do a key change and repeat part of it, that's when you do the variation stuff on it. Yeah, so that's a way to think of it too. Yeah.
It's also what you just brought up there, Abby, would be a great opportunity to go one of the times, maybe the last, one of the times to go, da-da-da-da, singing a song, and then have the bass go side, 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 by side, side, have kind of a little oompa, and give the bass a chance to shine, because we always like to give them chances to have shine.
You got this thing about basses, don't you?
I love basses. Every song I've ever arranged, it has at least one bass solo in it. So, but it's a nice thing, and it's an unexpected thing for your audience. But as you say, it takes the melody down and giving the bass da 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 side by side. That's the kind of thing people love. Every time the bass gets something by down.
Bass melody, yeah. Nice.
Oh, that's fun.
Anyway, just.
The choreography would write itself.
There you go. There you go. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll try to get maybe through the next two songs on the 11th, right?
Right.
Our normal time.
So specifically, which two songs would those be, please?
We're just gonna go right as they're listed.
order?
All by myself. And When I Leave the World Behind.
And you meant the 14th, right? Not the
Yes.
11th? Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Let's
I
make
meant-
sure we got that right. I thought for sure I was confused.
6 days.
I'm good at being confused for one thing.
So
Yeah.
6 days from now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Same
Right.
time, but 6 days, not 1 week.
So we'll
Right.
have two ballots to compare. That'll be
Friday
fun.
the 14th. Yes. Good. Yeah. Okay. So everybody's all set with that, right? Okie dokie.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then when is our arrangement of was it the verse?
The verse. Yeah.
Yeah, when was that supposed to be due for now? Did I work on that unnecessarily? Was they supposed
you-
to
you-
wait
yeah.
on that?
You
Sure.
worked
Yeah.
ahead. That's okay.
That's all right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we wouldn't assign that till we get at the end of these, but you always know it's there. So if you
Yeah.
got it done and you wanted to do it, that's fine. We're just not gonna look at it till we look at all of them when I mean, well, I looked at it, but I mean, we're not gonna do anything with it, but.
Okay.
And you
we're
may
gonna
decide
really-
to do something different after going through these songs and
Yeah.
discovering different things.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
we might just notice too that the next two all by myself is Renee Craig. And When I Leave the World Behind is Joni Vesco's. So we're gonna have two of the founding mothers, so to speak, of the organization. This is sort of like in a general way. I used to think that in the Holy Trinity of Sweet Adelines, I keep changing around who they are. But certainly in our Holy Trinity, we have at least 5 or 6 people, and these are 2 of them.
Yeah.
I don't know how you say that, but I didn't want to say a holy sexity. So, but it's a 6-sided coin of mothers, and these are 2 of them.
Lord.
Okay, it's time to go. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. Overload. There we go.
Hey, you guys. Good to see you.
All right. So
Bye,
we'll see
everybody.
you. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you.
Next week.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Good job
See you later.
tonight, everybody.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Jean. Thank you.
Bye-bye.